Okay, so we're back in the Gemara, Avodah Zarah, Daf 37. So it says, this is the end of 36. It says, when I came back and relayed Rabbi Chia's statement before Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, he said to me, discard my statement and grasp the statement of Rabbi Chia, who says, for when does a Gentile child import ritual impurity as one who experiences ziva? From when he is 9 years old on one day. Okay, now we're in 37. The Gemara explains the reason for this opinion. Since a 9-year-old is fit to engage in intercourse, he also imparts ritual impurity as one who experiences ziva. So this is talking about a Gentile child. They're basically considered, they have the status of being impure because they don't observe purity laws at all. There's nobody governing that for them. And therefore, these categories are from those ages. They're considered imparting ritual impurity. So Ravina said, therefore, with regard to a female Gentile child who is 3 years and 1 day old, she is fit to engage in intercourse. She also imparts impurity as one who experiences ziva. It's not that, that it's appropriate for someone to engage in intercourse at that age. The whole idea there's certain categories that the Gemara uses for when people are responsible for certain things, right? Because like intercourse outside of marriage it can impart, you could be responsible for the death penalty. So therefore, at what age does the death penalty kick in? And then there's other things that go along with that. So this is just a particular category here, and it's talking about, Gentile children. At what age do they start imparting ritual impurity? Okay. The Gemara asks, isn't that obvious? The Gemara explains it was necessary to state this ruling, lest you say that the halacha that a Gentile who is suited for intercourse imparts impurity does not apply to a female. The possible difference between a male and a female child is based on the fact that whereas that child, a 9-year-old male Gentile, knows how to accustom others to sin by employing persuasion, this child, a 3-year-old female Gentile, does not know how to accustom others to sin until she matures. Therefore, Ravina teaches us that the halacha nevertheless applies to both male and female children. Okay. The Gemara relates a relevant incident. Rabbi Yehuda Nesia was traveling while leaning upon the shoulder of Rabbi Simlai, his attendant. Rabbi Yehuda Nesia said to him, Simlai, you were not in the study hall last night when we permitted the oil of Gentiles. Rabbi Simlai said to him, in our days you will permit bread of Gentiles as well. So Rabbi Yehuda Nesia said to him, if so, people will call us a permissive court. As we learned in a Mishnah, Edut 8:4, Rabbi Yoshi ben Yoezer of Zarah testified with regard to El Kamtza, a type of locust that is kosher, and with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple, that they are ritually pure, and with regard to one who touches a corpse, that he is impure, as soon explained by the Gemara. As a result, they called him Yosef the Permissive. Okay, Rabbi Simlai said to him, there, Yossi ben Yoezer permitted 3 matters, but the master has permitted only 1, and even if the master permits 1 other matter, these will still constitute only 2 permissive rulings. So Rabbi Yehuda Nesia said to him, I have already permitted another matter. The Gemara asks, what is the other matter that he permitted? The Gemara explains that this is, as we learned in a Mishnah, Gitin 76b, that if one says to his wife, this is your bill of divorce, if I do not arrive from now until 12 months this time, and he died within 12 months, then it is not a valid bill of divorce because it would not take effect until after the husband's death. And it is taught with regard to that Mishnah that our rabbis, meaning the majority, nevertheless permitted her to marry. The Gemara continues, and we say, who is the Mishnah referring to when it mentions our rabbis? So Rav Yehuda said that Shmuel said, this is referring to the court that permitted the oil of Gentiles. Okay, tangentially, the Gemara examines the reason for the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda Nesia's court concerning a bill of divorce. They hold in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yoshi, who says the date written in a document proves when it takes effect. In other words, the bill of divorce takes effect at the time written on it. Therefore, the divorce actually goes into effect before the husband's death, because it retroactively initiated on the day that the bill was issued. The Gemara adds, and Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, says, in an earlier period, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi also ruled that the bill of divorce should be valid, but the other sages did not concede to his opinion during his entire lifetime. And some say that all of his colleagues did not concede to his opinion. Okay. Rabbi Elazar said to a certain elderly man who was a member of Rabbi Yehuda Nasia's court, when you permitted this woman to remarry, did you permit her immediately after the husband died? As he certainly did not arrive within the 12 months, or perhaps you permitted her only after 12 months because only then was the condition fulfilled. That elderly man said, Rabbi Elazar, and let the dilemma be raised with regard to the Mishnah itself, as we learned in the next line of the Mishnah in Gittin. If one says to his wife, this is your bill of divorce from now, if I do not arrive from now until 12 months have elapsed, and he died within 12 months, this is a valid bill of divorce. The reason is that its condition was fulfilled, as the husband stated explicitly that the bill takes effect immediately. So instead of the woman having to wait before she remarries upon the death, that she would be able to remarry immediately is kind of like the idea. Okay, he explained, and let the dilemma be raised with regard to this case. Is the bill of divorce valid immediately upon the husband's death because he will certainly not arrive? Or perhaps the bill of divorce is valid only after 12 months have elapsed because only then is his condition fulfilled. So Rabbi Elazar answered, yes, it is indeed so. This question can be asked with regard to the case of the Mishnah itself. The Gemara adds, but Rabbi Elazar asked that elder about the decision of Rabbi Yehuda Nasia's court because he was present at that assembly, and therefore he could report on what had actually occurred. Abaye says, all concede that one who says that a bill of divorce will take effect once the sun emerges from its sheath is saying to his wife that it will be valid once the sun comes out in the morning. And therefore, if the husband dies during the night, before sunrise, it is a posthumous bill of divorce, which is invalid. Therefore, if he said to her, on the condition the sun will come out of its sheath, then he is saying to his wife that the bill of divorce will take effect retroactively from now on the condition that the sun emerges. And accordingly, if he dies during the night, this is certainly a fulfilled condition, and it is a bill of divorce which takes effect retroactively while he is alive. In accordance with the statement of Rav Huna, as Rav Huna says with regard to anyone who states a provision employing the language, on the condition, it is tantamount to his stating in the provision that the document takes effect retroactively from now. So they disagreed only in the case of one who said to his wife, this will be your bill of divorce if the sun emerges from its sheath and the husband died during the night. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yoshi, who says that the date written in a document proves when it takes effect. And it is therefore considered as though the husband said, from today, if I die, or as though he said, from now, if I die. And the sages do not accept the opinion of Rabbi Yoshi, and consequently they maintain that it is considered as though the husband said only, this is your bill of divorce if I die. In which case, the bill of divorce is not valid, as it would take effect only after the husband's death. Okay, the Gemara returns to the matter itself. Yoshi ben Yoezer of Zarah testified with regard to El Kamta that it is kosher, and with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse in the temple that they are ritually pure, and with regard to one who touches a corpse that he is impure. And as a result, they called him Yosef the Permissive. The Gemara asks, what is the El Kamta? So Rav Papa says it is a long-headed locust called Shoshiva, and Rav Chia bar Ami says in the name of Ula, it is a locust called Susbil. Okay, the Gemara explains, Rav Papa says it is Shoshiva, and accordingly, Yossi ben Yoezer and the other rabbis disagreed with regard to a long-headed locust. One sage, the rabbis, holds that a long-headed locust is prohibited, and one sage, Yoshi ben Yoezer, holds that a long-headed locust is permitted. So Rav Chia bar Ami says in the name of Ula that it is a susbil, and accordingly, with regard to a long-headed locust, everyone agrees that it is prohibited. And here they disagree with regard to the locust whose wings barely cover most of its body. One sage, Yoshi ben Yoezer, holds that we require only a minimal majority of the locust body to be covered by its wings. And one sage, meaning the position of the rabbis, holds that we require a noticeable majority of the body to be covered. It was stated above, and Yoshi ben Yoezer testified with regard to the liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple that they are ritually pure. So the Gemara asks, what did Yoshi ben Yoezer mean when he said they are pure? So Rav says he meant that they are actually ritually pure, and Shmuel says they are pure in the sense that they do not impart ritual impurity to other substances, but they themselves can contract impurity. So the Gemara explains the reasons for these opinions. Rav says that these liquids are actually pure, as he maintains that the ritual impurity of liquids applies by rabbinic law, and when the sages decreed impurity upon liquids, they did so only with regard to ordinary liquids, but the sages did not issue the decree with regard to liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple. And Shmuel says, the liquids are ritually pure in the sense that they do not impart impurity to other substances, but they themselves can contract impurity, as Shmuel maintains that the ritual impurity of liquids themselves is by Torah law, whereas their capacity to impart impurity to other substances is by rabbinic law. And when the sages issued this decree, they did so only with regard to ordinary liquids, but they did not issue the decree with regard to liquids of the slaughterhouse and the temple. It was stated, and Yoshi ben Yoezer testified with regard to one who touches a corpse that he is impure, and as a result, they called him Yosef the Permissive. The Gemara questions this. Since he issued a stringent ruling, they should have called him Yosef the Prohibiting, and therefore this halach is explicitly written in the Torah, as it is written, quote, and whosoever in the open field touches one that is slain with a sword, or one that is dead, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be impure 7 days. Numbers 19:16. The Gemara explains, by Torah law, one who touches a corpse is ritually impure, but one who touches another who has touched a corpse is pure. And the sages came and decreed that even one who touches another who has touched a corpse is also impure. And Yoshi ben Yoezer came and established the halacha in accordance with the original, more lenient Torah law. The Gemara raised a difficulty. One who touches another who has touched a corpse is also rendered impure by Torah law, as it is written, quote, and whatsoever the impure person touches shall be impure. Numbers 19:22. The sages stated this difficulty before Rava in the name of Mar Zutra, the son of Rav Nachman, who said a response in the name of Rav Nachman. By Torah law, one who touches another, who touches a corpse, while the second individual is in concurrent contact with the corpse, is impure, with 7-day impurity. If this occurs, while the second individual is not in concurrent contact with the corpse, he imparts impurity until the evening. And the sages came and decreed that even where there is no concurrent contact, one still contracts 7-day impurity when he touches someone who touched a corpse. And subsequently, Yoshi ben Yoezer came and established the halacha in accordance with the original Torah law. The Gemara asks, what is the source of this halacha? Prescribed by Torah law, as it is written, quote, he that touches the dead, even any man's dead body, shall be impure 7 days. Numbers 19, verse 11. And it is written, quote, and whatsoever the impure person touches shall be impure. Numbers 19:22. These two verses indicate that one contracts ritual impurity for 7 days, and yet it is also written, quote, and the soul that touches him shall be impure until evening. Numbers 19:22. How can these texts be reconciled? The Gemara answers here in the first two verses, the Torah is discussing concurrent contact, which results in impurity of 7 days. There, in the last verse, it is discussing a case where there is no concurrent contact, and therefore the individual in question is impure only until the evening. Okay, so Rava said to the sages who suggested that explanation, citing Rav Nachman, didn't I tell you not to hang empty pitchers or bouquet upon Rav Nachman, that is not to attribute incorrect statements to him. Rather, this is what Rav Nachman said. Yoshi ben Yoezer permitted for them a case of uncertain impurity contracted in a public domain. In other words, Yoshi ben Yoezer ruled leniently that one who is unsure whether or not he came in contact with a corpse in the public domain is ritually pure. So the Gemara raises a difficulty, but didn't we learn this halacha from the case of a woman suspected by her husband of having been unfaithful, so the sota? Just as a sota can be made to drink the bitter waters only when she is suspected of engaging in adultery in a private domain, so too uncertain ritual impurity is considered impure only when one suspects that he came into contact with it in a private domain. This shows that even by Torah law, one who is unsure whether or not he touched a corpse in the public domain remains pure. So Rabbi Yochanan said in explanation, this is the halacha, but a public ruling is not issued to that effect. Consequently, the masses treated this matter with stringency, and Yoshi ben Yoezer came and instructed the masses to follow the original instruction of the Torah. Therefore, his ruling was, in fact, a leniency. The Gemara provides support for Rabbi Yochanan's explanation. This is also taught in a Braita. Rabbi Yehuda says that Yoshi ben Yoezer drove stakes into the ground for the people and said, until here is the public domain, and until there is the private domain, so that they would know the halacha if they suspected that they had touched a corpse. So the Gemara relates that when people came before Rabbi Yanai because they suspected that they might have come into contact with a source of impurity in the public domain, he said to them, why involve yourselves in matters of uncertainty? There is deep water in the river. Go immerse yourselves in it and resolve the problem in this matter. The Mishnah teaches, and boiled vegetables prepared by Gentiles are prohibited. The Gemara asks, from where is this matter derived? Rabbi Chia Bar Abba says that Rabbi Yochanan says, the verse states that when Moses asked Shihon, king of the Amorites, for passage through his land, he said, you shall sell me food for money, that I may eat, and give me water for money, that I may drink. Deuteronomy 2:28. By juxtaposing food and water, the verse teaches that food is like water. Just as Moses wished to purchase water that was unchanged, so too he wished to purchase food that was unchanged, meaning uncooked. So evidently, this is because foods cooked by Gentiles are prohibited. The Gemara raises a difficulty. If that is so, then in a case where a Gentile had wheat and made it into roasted grains, by roasting it in the oven, the wheat should also be prohibited as it was cooked. And if you would say, indeed, that is so, this cannot be the halacha, as isn't it taught in a Braita, if a Gentile had wheat and made it into roasted grains, it is permitted. The Gemara suggests a different explanation. Rather, food is like water in the following manner. Just as Moses wished to purchase water that was not altered from the original state, so too he wished to purchase food that was not altered in its original state. Roasting wheat kernels does not alter their original state. The Gemara raises another difficulty. If that is so, then if a Gentile had wheat and ground it into flour, the flour should also be prohibited, as the wheat has been altered from its original state. And if you would say, indeed, that is so, this cannot be the case, as isn't it taught in a Braita? If a Gentile had wheat and made it into roasted grains, it is permitted. Similarly, flours and fine flours belonging to Gentiles are permitted. Rather, food is like water in the following manner. Just as Moses wished to purchase water that was not altered from its original state by fire, so too he wished to purchase food that was not altered from its original state by fire. Although wheat ground into flour is altered from its original state, this change is not accomplished by means of fire. The Gemara raises a difficulty. Is fire written in the verse? There is no mention of fire in the verse at all. How can it be assumed that this is the similarity between water and food? And that is the end of Daf 37. Thanks for watching.